it's even more than just delighting kids so that you can delight the parents. It's really thinking through the entire experience so then the parents actually kind of subconsciously can't help but tell their friends. We call them VIKs. Very important kids. They're the most important things to a parent. This is just so much more important than the spa and the restaurants. This is just so much bigger, and yet no one's doing anything.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Moments That Matter podcast, the podcast where we take a deep dive into the pivotal moments that have shaped the journeys of today's leaders. Today, I'm joined by Saar Shai of Wanderland. Saar, how are you?
I'm great.
For those who may be listening who aren't familiar with you or what Wanderland is, can you give an overview?
Yeah. So Wanderland is the world's first and only kids and teens hospitality consultancy. So we really focus not just on family hospitality, but particularly on kids and on teens. This is something that is largely overlooked by hotels of different kinds. And we want to make hotels and then hospitality overall more welcoming and more wonderful for the kids themselves, because that is something that we believe that they are uh, kind of asking for without asking for, and there's also a huge commercial benefit, commercial potential for hotels. I started Wonderland about 2 years ago. I'm a veteran of game design, toy invention, book publishing, uh, some marketing, some patent law in my career, education technology, really kind of a wide range. But then in the past decade, I've been designing games, I've been inventing toys, I've been working with toy companies and book publishers, along with my wife, who is the co-founder of Wonderland. And indeed, about 2 years ago, we looked at what can we do with all the know-how, the expertise, and the connections that we have in toys and games to toyify other industries, to kind of make them more fun, bring this everything that is wonderful about toys and about games into other industries. Hospitality was really by far the first choice because, in a way, it's it's a wonderful experience. Hospitality. It's something that it's more than an industry. It's part of life. It's an experience, and to make it something that's all the more full of wonder is something that we really wanted to take on and believe that we could. And I guess the cliche is Disney and Walt looked at country fairs and thought, these things could be magical worlds of experiences, and he created an entire industry, and of course leading this with their destinations, and we want to do something like that for hotels.
Yeah, it's quite incredible. I've been to the website. I've heard a lot of people mention what you're doing. So, so just to take it back a little bit, so you're working with toys, you're working with games, you're an inventor. What was the moment when you thought we should, instead of building toys and selling them to the masses, we should teach people how to create these types of spaces and engaging content for the kids?
Um, there was one moment, and then kind of many other ones. The pivotal moment was when we went on holiday with our oldest daughter. She's now 9. She back then was 6.
Mm.
We booked a boutique hotel, a wonderful lakeside hotel, Lake Maggiore, in the Italian part of Switzerland, and we took the car and we went, and we had to stay in France for a night because of the long drive. So uh, we found a roadside Novotel, and we it was just, an accommodation. But when we arrived, the receptionist, in a very charming way, presented to our daughter this wooden yo-yo, something that my daughter kind of never seen before. It was really, really uh, a nice looking item. So it wasn't like a, cheap plastic. It was something that really looked meaningful. Um, so we leave the Novotel the next day. We drive to Lake Maggiore. This is a very expensive boutique hotel, and we present to our daughter one of the most beautiful views in the world, and an establishment with the best service, and her eyes are on a yo-yo, and all she can say is, "When are we going back?" And since then, every year, twice a year, this is the only hotel that she is willing to stay at on the way to Switzerland. To Switzerland, right? To the Swiss Alps. We just can't go anywhere else. Um, the and indeed there were many other moments of kind of being at hotels, traveling, and thinking, wouldn't it be cool if they did this? And oh, this could be a great experience. For example, um, uh, some hotels very rarely, they put like a nice rubber duck in the bath. But you know, if they just put 15, which is not going to cost so much more, but create kind of like a whole scene that you walk into, then that's an unforgettable moment, right? So all these kind of things, we said, look, we know toys, we know games, we know experiences. Let's make those moments.
That is fantastic. I'll say, we went to Chicago for my son's birthday, and we tried to stop doing presents and try to do more experiences with them. And I reached out to one of our clients, London House, and the guy that we work with mainly there is the director of sales and marketing. His name's Don Barnett. You may have seen him on LinkedIn. Don, if you're listening, we love you, man. He ends up getting my son a little bag for his birthday. So when we check in, Don's down there. He gets down on one knee. Hi, Noah. Happy birthday. And presents him with this bag. And on the front inside, there was a London House hat. And my son proudly puts it on. He wore that hat everywhere we went. He was a walking billboard, by the way. And then he had an amazing Lego pack. And my son just wanted to get up to the room and put this thing together. So he did one little module, and then we'd go to lunch. He put another one together. Just carried this thing around. He was so proud. He showed Don the finished product. And there's no other hotel that we're going to want to go back to. And I know that Don's not giving out Legos, every single day to every person, but those moments stick out so much, and it made him feel safe, feel wanted, feel appreciated, feel welcomed at that hotel. So it really does matter when a kid goes into a space that they feel welcome, that they feel like they were at least considered in the journey.
Yeah, and then you get going back to the commercial payoff here. You really get the entire family, and you get many years, and even several generations. Um, it kind of not just bribed by loyalty points, but genuinely building a relationship. Also, it's interesting because one of the things that we're looking into is the playground marketing, which is the word of mouth of kids, which is something that it's kind of invisible, especially to this industry, which is ironic because holidays are the things that kids maybe talk about the most when they come back, and kind of sync up with their friends about what they've done, where they've been, and many times uh, I was surprised to actually hear about recommendations for hotels coming from my daughter, my 9-year-old daughter. She's not booking hotels, but her friends that came back and said, no, we had a great time and this resort or there, and they did this special thing. They are consumers. Kids are definitely consumers, and they're definitely kind of clients that bring more clients, and it's actually I was genuinely surprised that I have to make this commercial point when I went into hospitality, because
Hmm.
I thought it was obvious.
Well, these little kids, they have a lot of influence, um, and it's exemplified by the fact that in our town, here you could eat at 100 different places. I find myself eating at places I don't actually like the food, and I don't really care for the ambiance, but the children, they're begging for it in the car. Can we please go to PJ's? Can we please? And and they have such influence on where we go. And as a parent, you want to make them happy. So places that they're going to be happy, right? You tend to take them. My wife doesn't eat meat, but we take the kids to Chick-fil-A. They have a little
Mm.
playground there, and they treat them nicely. And it's always a good time when you go there. Well, first of all, the service is phenomenal, and the food's really good. You have Chick-fil-A up there?
No, we don't, but it's on my list when I do the restaurant tour of the US.
So we find ourselves going to these places because the kids remember it. And it is funny, like you're saying, they remember very specific things. Like I took my son to a hotel in New York, and I really didn't want to pay more than 200 a night. So it was kind of like 3.5 stars. And it was a decent place, but they had a fish tank, a floor to ceiling fish tank, circular, like a cylinder, in the lobby. And he wanted to sit down there. And now every time we go back, I'm like, oh well, we're probably gonna stay up in this neighborhood. He's like, can't we go back to the place with the fish tank? They love those types of things. And I'm sure that the
Yeah,
fish tank wasn't meant only for kids, but it surely got him hooked.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just to show, kind of as a kind of a test group, which is it's meant for the adults, but it shows you that kids remember it more. When we come to Switzerland, we stay at several hotels, and there's one hotel that's really out of our budget, but we go into the lobby every year because there's this gnome there, right? And I'm sure that if we could, then that's where our daughters are going to drag us to something that is not, as you said, not even for kids, but their attachment to moments of wonder is so great that it's just amazing how much they're underserved in this industry.
Absolutely. And I saw on your website you've got a report. So you all commissioned probably the most extensive report that's ever been done for children and teens. Can you tell us a little bit about what the report is and some of the findings that you were even surprised to see?
Yeah, absolutely. So after about a year uh, working at Wonderland, on Wonderland and for Wonderland, talking to clients, talking to non-clients, really learning about hospitality because it was brand new to us. We realized that we learned so much that actually is not documented, and there isn't any specific industry report that focuses on teens and kids, and actually also the cross section and the overlap between what what is done for kids in other industries and in hospitality. What we found that is surprising only because we just didn't know that the data was so definitive. And the data is about how influential kids are when it comes to purchasing decisions within the family, and even in particular to do with travel, to do with hospitality, and to do with hotels. So we found really a wealth of information from surveys and reviews and other reports that we brought together to really make the case that, in a way, in many situations and contexts, kids are even more influential. They're the ones who are choosing where to go, and even more importantly, where to go back. So, I'll give you, for example, a recent study by YouGov from 2023. And what they found is that 57% of teenagers um, actually are involved in deciding which hotel to go to. So that's not like just deciding destination, they're particularly the hotel. So these kids, these teenagers are on media, they're exposed to it, and they're also hear from their friends, and they have an opinion. And it's just amazing that this was actually reported. And also an interesting thing that I found that was completely surprising. So was 21% of parents. I think it's in uh, a certain geographic zone, where they asked participants, parents let their kids plan the holiday. So I don't know if this is like a new thing that parents do. I really don't know what's going on there. But it turns out that in many situations, not only are the kids influencing the decision, they're actually the ones who do it. And there's testimonials about how, parents are saying, well, this actually is the best holiday that we've had. Because they took us to places that we didn't expect, and they chose things to do that we didn't necessarily even know about.
I mean, as you're saying all this, it's paralleling my real life just perfectly.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
we we're planning a holiday right now, just before school starts, and we're looking at a bunch of different cities that I can use American Airlines points on and get a kind of a good return for those. And it's incredible. I gave the kids a little piece of paper, a couple different cities. I'm like, we could go back to San Diego. We had a good time down in Orlando. What do you guys think? And they each voted, and because we're giving them some say in it. Where do you think
Mm,
we'd have the best time? And specifically, though, they have access to YouTube, to
mm,
some degree, a limited kind of watchful. And what I found was they will go and type in the destination and look for other hotels, watch the video, and then say, Dad, come here. Look, they have a water slide here. And this is my 9-year-old doing sort
mm.
of research. But I've tasked him with that before. I've told him to go on Google Sheets, tell me which hotel, what the price is for the nights, and just kind of teach him how to go on and hunt there. But they absolutely have influenced where we stay, hands down, every time.
Yeah. So in a way, hoteliers and hotel management and brand executives, they're looking for maybe different areas of the brain to kind of tap into to get new audience, to retain existing audience, to get on, the trade publications, uh, diversify, find new ways to stand out, to differentiate, and yet this the 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 thing that the brain area that most influences parents on where to go and what to do and how to spend, how much to spend, is their kids. So yeah, it's really baffling how obvious it is from the data, and from just looking at any family that you can find, will tell you that they are indeed the ones that lead the family, and not the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, like, if the kids aren't happy, then the parents really, how could the parents be happy when the kids are miserable, right? It kind of like sinks the ship for everyone. And so when a hotel or a resort really gets it and they do it right and the kids are happy, it's kind of validation for all of the effort and money spent. Because we often think, okay, we're going to go on a week's vacation, and we know when we're coming back, they're going to melt down, and this is, inevitably things are going to happen. But we went to this Omni homestead last year, maybe it was 2 years ago now, and they just took such great care of the kids. We went for Easter, and they had breakfast with the Easter bunny and an Easter egg hunt, and so many
Mm.
activities, that a kids club that the kids actually wanted to go and check out, and we could leave them there for a few hours while we did something. So when it's done right, it feels so good to actually say we went on vacation and we had a great time. But it's absolutely because someone there was thinking, not just throwing out a cornhole set in the front lawn, but actually thinking about the programming and what the experience is going to be like. And on that note, for you, how do you approach? Let's say there's just regular adult hospitality, and someone brings you in and they say, we think that you're right. We think we need this. What's your process? How do you approach that type of engagement?
Yeah. First of all, you touched on a really interesting point, because I think that um, it's even more than just delighting kids so that you can delight the parents. It's really thinking through the entire experience, so then the parents actually kind of subconsciously can't help but tell their friends and other family members about how amazing it was. And that really leads us to our methodology, which is looking at the child journey. Uh, in hospitality, there's the customer journey or the guest journey, and we do exactly the same for kids. And it's interesting because if we're working with a client, a hotel that doesn't have anything for kids, we first of all look at what they do for grown-ups.
Mm.
Only because the the kids are present to that journey, right? So for example, um, you check in, you get a key, right? They don't get anything. You One of the examples that we give is from food and beverage, which is the kids menu, which is we've never seen, and we've looked, a kids menu that looks better than the parents menu, or even as good, and kids
Yeah,
pick up on that.
they're complaining
So
about it's. I
yeah,
Go ahead, please.
it's poorly printed, smaller, one page. I'm not even talking about the selection of the food. I'm talking about just the way it's presented. And then the parents gets the real menu, right? And it's so easy to flip it around, or to just make something that stands out. Um, and one of the things that one of our design principles is to do with outsizing, or under or oversizing different elements. So wouldn't it be such an amazing moment that you wouldn't be able to not talk about if you got a menu and then your kid got an even bigger menu, right? Physically, like, just looks better. That's something you just can't ignore. So with a check-in, yes, okay, some hotels give kids a passport. We can get into that, how it's not good enough, but um, just look at what you do for the grown-ups, the parents, and make sure that in some way you're you're paying attention to the child. It doesn't even need to be to give the child something. So that's really one of the key ways that we make a start with hotels, which is what are you already doing, and how does that look through the eyes of a child who comes to your hotel? They're there, they're seeing this, and it's not necessarily a negative experience for them, but it could be a dramatically positive experience. And as I mentioned with the menu, the parents see it. Like, it's not just for the child.
It's really important that you just said it that way. I was just
Mm.
writing this, literally. As a parent, we notice when someone does something or treats people we love great. Like if someone gives my child something that makes them happy, I always notice that. I always appreciate that. And we have people we love and we care about. And when we see people making their experience better, we can't help but love that. Absolutely.
And
On
I
the
think
note,
that's what.
sorry,
Go,
what's
go
that?
ahead. Just
I was just,
that's what hospitality is all about.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. On the note of the menus, this is one that really pains me to
Mm,
see most restaurants put chicken fingers, hot dogs that are warmed up in a microwave, a
mm,
macaroni and cheese that's boiled in hot water or microwaved, um, it's almost the worst food on the planet that's being given to our children with almost no thought whatsoever.
In Michelin star restaurants, I won't name names, but it's a bit ridiculous, and it's really interesting because one of the seminal books of hospitality, Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara, talks about reverse benchmarking, which is what he did. So they were the 50th best restaurant in the world. They got into the ranking, but as last place, and he wanted to be the first. He took his staff to other, you know, phenomenal top ranking restaurants, but instead of asking them, what are they doing well, he asked them, well, what are they not doing as well, or what are they really doing poorly that we can do amazing? And that is such a smart and efficient way of looking at it, which is you might not be able to really going back to the restaurants, everyone's competing about how good the food is, well, naturally, right? I mean, the interior design. So you're playing, you're commoditizing it. You're playing a game that everyone's playing, and um, you know, it's an arms race. Whereas there's this whole world of diners that come to your restaurant, and that it just up for the taking. Another thing that I'll say about that is the other day, my eldest daughter, Sasha, she's wanted to join our business because she sees how much fun we're having. So so we had her be like, oh, well, make the case. If you want us to hire you, make the case. So she actually came up with some ideas for how to make food more interesting. So how to make, and this is not, she didn't even know about us and the kids menu. So she thought of a round sausage, so like a donut, but like a that goes all around the plate. And she thought about mystery nuggets, which is nuggets that look exactly the same, but inside there's different things. Because she says for you, a lot of the time, when you order a dish, you don't really know how it's going to taste. It's a new experience for you. And she said, "Well, I know what nuggets taste like. Surprise me."
That's awesome that she's thinking like that. She's thinking creatively. The amount of empathy and just wondering about what would surprise and delight children. That's awesome. You've got some thinkers over there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, she's a strong candidate. We'll we'll consider it.
You consider. I will say, imagine if there was a series of restaurants across
Mm,
the world called Kids Place, and you go there, and the focus is on the kids. The parents are the afterthought. And the parents, and we go, yeah, we've got some hot dogs and some mac and cheese for you guys. But the
mm.
kids, we have everything. We've got smoothies and milkshakes and I mean, it's just an amazing place for kids. What I'm coming to realize talking with you and kind of reflecting on my own journey with my kids is if I'm not happy and my kid's an afterthought, we'll really never come back.
Mm,
If I don't have a good time or a good meal, but my kids are happy, we might
mm.
still come back. That's the level of influence. So the kids can override a parent having a negative experience.
Yeah, it's
The first would not
I
be
won't
true.
argue. Exactly. They genuinely come first. I mean, we call them VIKs, very important kids. They're the most important things to a parent, right? Okay, I'm not talking about adults in general that have certain priorities, but indeed, this is just so much more important than the spa and the restaurants and what you give in the room, and the handwritten note that you give to parents, or the handwritten note that you give any guest. This is just so much bigger, and yet no one's doing anything. And every time that I talk about it, it really it energizes me again and again to kind of charge ahead, because I just want to see this happen. And you said the same thing. You said, you're so you're such a believer in this, and you're so enthusiastic about this because even more than anything else, you just want to take your kids to what you can imagine can be this amazing experience.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So now let's maybe spill the beans a little bit.
Mm.
Who who out there, what resorts have taken your advice and are doing some of the coolest things with kids where you look at what they've done, what they've implemented, and you're just like, they've got it, they're doing it right. Who are a couple examples?
Yeah, so I can't say that yet we've got kind of the carte blanche of doing the most amazing things that we have planned. But I will name some amazing clients of ours. We worked with the Beaumont in London, which I think is really one of the best hotels in London, and that's a tough list to top. What we've done for them is really quite simple. Uh, they have welcome gifts for kids, as do so many hotels, most hotels. But it's when hotels look at kids, they think of a, a 4-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl. Like, that's where it's at. That's a child. And what we did is we actually work with them on welcome gifts that are age appropriate, that are specific to the age ranges and things that the kids actually want to get. What we also did with them is create a double-decker bus, so that's the London famous bus, as a cart that hides behind the check-in desk. And like I said before, the check-in is a certain, whether the uh, parents enjoy the process or not, it's something that they get attention, right? And that's another thing with kids, which is doesn't even necessarily need to be good attention, but it's the attention. And we created a moment. Calling an experience would be um, overstating what it is, but understating its impact. Um, so we designed this double decker, and inside there are the welcome gifts. So they're not just like handed or just like resting in the room. The kid chooses from this double decker that opens up. That's a card. But we said, instead of just like having it out, it's around it hides behind, and they roll it out. As the parent is checking in. So the other thing is that also it gives the parent the kind of the space to do what they need to do, take a breath, and kind of delight the kids in a way that also is functional in a way. So that's the Beaumont, for example. Now we're working with Como hotels that have Play by Como, which really is a fantastic kids program and kids club. And uh, I'm saying that because that made our job so much harder because they really nail it on many fronts. It's not something that is out yet, but we hope that in 2026 it's going to come out. And it's interesting because what we're doing is taking the experience of the kids club, so the space itself and the programming, and taking it out of the kids club. So what are the kids getting, or how are the kids engaging with everything that is before and after the kids club? So for example, how do you get them excited to go to the club? You actually mentioned a club that they actually want to go to, right? And they identified the fact that even 8-year-olds plus, but especially 10-year-old plus, don't actually want to go to their clubs. Their parents are forcing them to go. But then after they go, they actually kind of like it.
Wow.
So what we're doing is we're actually, instead of trying to convince the parents to send their kids, we're trying to convince the kids. So, at breakfast, someone comes over and presents, the activities of the day in a way that really makes sure that the child gets it. Look, this is going to be fun. And that makes all the difference.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
We often see that even clients that we have with kids clubs, um, they'll show a photo of the space, right?
Mhm.
And that's cool. But like, let's say you're going to put your kids into preschool. Um, a photo of the space is cool. You kind of want to know like who's going to be watching them. and maybe not the credentials, but wouldn't it be nice to see a video of the attendants saying that they've been in childcare for 6 years, they really love kids, they have two of their own, and you're like, wow, this is a warm and inviting spot, and so, videos of some of the activities so that you actually get the kids excited. But I love how you're sending someone out to give a personal invitation.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think that that's really important. We've talked to other people where when you try to get the utilization, so when people have bought into this idea of activities, I want to do lawn bowling or I want to go to the happy hour, just an invitation. We'd love to see you at 4 o'clock today out in the front. Just someone verbally inviting you, has something like a 60% uptick in attendance for things like that. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's wild because it's in a way an exception that proves the rule, which is hospitality is all about invitation, right? I mean, it's all about a lot of things, but it's really about making someone feel welcome and the personal attention that you give. And yet it's kind of like there's a pamphlet that says the opening hours of the pool or when kids are allowed or not allowed versus like make it a positive. It's not like you're not allowed from this time, but like come to, raise the roof when it is the time that you should be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up one thing which I think still, even bringing the bus around, there's so much innovation if people just nail that check-in experience.
Mm,
Most kids, let's say under 9 years old, those check-in desks, if you actually just held a camera at about 36 to 48 inches and you just walk up and the parent is above, eye to eye, handing over the license and the credit card, and the child's just staring at a mahogany wood, right? Just staring. And there's so much that the child could be engaged with or something at their level that still fits in with the aesthetic but kind of engages the kids during that critical 3 or 4 minutes of checking in, getting your room, maybe instructions or a map of the resort. I think that would really make the difference for the first
yeah,
impression for the kid.
yeah. I think I think it's a known kind of rule of thumb and maybe even more than a rule of thumb that hotels make more per guest when they are able to get guests to explore more spaces in the properties and be familiar with all the wide range of spaces. It doesn't even need to be services, and kids are just primed to explore. They're there because this is an amazing thing. It might be also kind of like you said, with the desk, it's kind of like, okay, I'm just staring at this thing. But on the other hand, it's so mysterious, and they fill it with their imagination. And what you want is for them to drag the parents to to see the lounge area or to have a walk in the gardens, and you can really easily do that. And it's also interesting about the actual perspective, the literal perspective of the child. Um, a while ago, I saw something about where um, uh, an interior designer went on a virtual reality tour. So basically, putting on the headset and looking at the space that they created from a child's perspective, um, which is just kind of like just lower. Um, and he just burst out crying because it's the first time that he actually realized that they see the world in a different way. I mean, sometimes scary, sometimes so full of wonder. Just when you go several inches down, right? So creatively, that's just really something that excites us to look at and innovate for.
Totally. When I was going through grad school, we read a lot about IDEO, the consulting
Mm.
agency, and there's just a story of this dental clinic, and the dentist clinic was like, hey, we've got, we're doing really good work, but our ratings and the reviews are like just not so good. We don't know why the guest satisfaction's down, and so they just brought a camera in. They laid back and for an hour just filmed the ceiling. They go, here you go. This is their experience, right? Another one they were trying to, and of course they then put flat screens on the ceiling. Another one they were trying to come up with storage for kids, storage bins, and they're like, well, adults just use open spaces and bins. That's kind of what we use. But like then they brought the camera down to the toddler level, and what they realized was there's this unutilized space underneath tables. So they made sort of these things that drill up into their little spaces that the kids can place their toys underneath a table in a really fun and creative way because that's what they see. I love
Yeah,
what you're doing. It's incredible.
yeah, I think yeah, under the table is a very special, magical place, and there's many more of those that you can actually employ. And yeah, it just reminds me of the story I shared with you. I'll also share with the listeners. Doug Diaz is a mechanical and product engineer for Siemens, and he was designing an MRI for a child hospital. And they finished designing it. It took 2 years. It's such a complicated device, and they put it at the hospital. I think it was it was a test. It was a day of testing, and some kids came to have a scan, and it was a traumatic experience for them. An MRI machine is a huge machine. It's claustrophobic. It has this noise. There's so much unexpected. It's so procedural. It's terrifying, and kids are crying. Kids are resisting, and actually, I think it's in the 80s percent. They need to sedate the kids because they can't move. So he looked at that experience, and he was completely shattered. He said that we're going to the drawing board. And a few months later, what they've done, it's such an amazing thing. I mean, uh, so they made each of the machines an experience. So the room itself, they painted the walls and drew on the walls. One of them is a pirate ship experience. Another one is a space experience, and they also included the staff as so the staff has a eye patch, and it's not just the space itself, and the script for that experience incorporates what the machine does. So the fact that they need to be straight is because the ship is lifting off, so they can't move during liftoff, right? And the fact that it's doing this scary sound is because there's another ship in the harbor that is leaving the harbor, and therefore it makes a lot of noise. So don't worry about it. And it, you know the it, and they went from 80 something percent kids needing to be sedated to I think 4 or 9%, but single digit, which by the way is such an economical gain. I'm not talking about even the the anguish that it relieves, but uh, more kids can have more of these scans because they don't need to go through the procedure of calming them down and waiting and talking to them. And he finished it. This is a TED talk that I recommend everyone sees. And at the end of the talk, he really kind of tears up when he says that as he was leaving when they tested it, when it was kind of designed for kids, he saw the last girl that was scanned and her mother walk into the car, and just kind of like out of the movie, at this moment where the daughter said to the mother, when can we come back?
Wow. Wow. So you took a terrible experience. You made it so fun and unique that the child is anticipating coming
He
back.
even wants to go back to a medical procedure.
Right. Wow. Wow. I did. So I saw what that you posted that, but I didn't see it come full circle on that. That's awesome.
Mm.
Fantastic.
It's an inspiration, yeah.
Jeez. Well, if one of our listeners are listening to this right now and they're interested, hoteliers that are interested in getting a hold of you, taking the kids and teens to the next level? How can they find out about more about you, get a hold of you?
They should just email. They should actually email Alicia, my co-founder. She's my partner and my wife. And she's much more hospitable than me. Let me put it that way. And she'll help you with anything you need. It's Alicia, so it's Alicia at Wanderland, and that's a Wonderland with an A, so WAND, and then .London, because that's where we're based at the moment.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, what a wonderful session. Saar, I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom, the knowledge, and the really innovative work that you're doing to make hotels, resorts more fun for more kids. And I want to, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, just thank you. I mean, you're helping make this journey all the more fun and rewarding.
Yeah, this was pretty awesome. I can't wait to see what's next for you all. And thank you for listening in. You, the visitor here on the podcast, thank you for tuning in. As always, please hit the like button, subscribe if you want to hear and find out about the newest episodes. Thanks so much.